Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Zhou blocked Chang Yan's all-out attack with his bare hands. Everything seemed to have frozen over at this moment. Everyone's eyes were wide open. They did not dare to blink, afraid they would miss a moment of this grand standoff. Everyone was amazed that old villain Zhi managed to block the attack. As it turned out, he was still standing above everyone, and his cultivation base did not deteriorate. Chang Yan, who had taken the primal fiend potion, was defeated with just a single hand? Everyone shuddered when they saw this. Old villain Zhi, why you? Chang Yan's eyes widened. Let's die together. You're dreaming. Zhou clenched his fist. A huge capture hand seal shot out from his palm. It resembled a Buddha hand seal when it grew in size. Boom. Scattered ashes and dispersed smoke. So what if Chang Yan was the patriarch of the Duanlin branch? So what if he had taken the primal fiend potion? So what if his strength was at the peak of the 8-leaf? All it took was one move from Zhou to kill him. Zhou had made this move to save time. After all, he did not have to worry about his consumption of primal qi. He could use the most powerful versions of all his moves as he pleased. The members of the 7 great sects were stunned. This? Why is old villain Zhi so powerful? No. Impossible. Even if one had everyone's support, could one remain unafraid when faced with such an elite? Even a stupid person would not stubbornly insist that Zhi Tiandao was on his deathbed after witnessing this. The people from the 7 great sects were frightened out of their wits. We should run. Zhou moved swiftly. The grand technique, soul chase. Bam. Zhou's palm strike landed on the first disciple of the Duanlin branch who had turned around to flee. Xiao Jinhan died immediately, his body falling from the sky. Zhou did not waste time and cast another technique. Energy swords crashed down on his enemies like a tidal wave. The Good Fortune Temple disciples who remained in the air were still chanting. Their fly-like voices were too insignificant to mention. They were soon overwhelmed and destroyed by the wave of energy swords and dropped from the sky. How's this possible? Miaoyin, the abbess of Good Fortune Temple, widened her eyes. Her straightened palm was shaking. When she looked up, she suddenly discovered that the old man, who was shining with a golden radiance, was already hovering before her. Old villain Zhi. Zhou struck with his palm. Repent, and you'll be absolved of your crimes. I'll send you on your way on Buddha's behalf. He launched his 9 cuts hand seals successively in the air. They formed a line and pierced Miao Yin's body. Zhou did not even look at her. He unleashed his grand technique and vanished. Miao Yin felt a deep sense of helplessness and despair welling up in her heart. Her blood gushed out from the gaping hole on her chest. She tried to circulate her primal qi to staunch the bleeding, but she realized that her Dantian sea of qi was already destroyed by that absolute force. She struggled to raise her arm to manually stop the bleeding, but she failed due to lack of strength. She looked up with a pitiable expression at the evil sky pavilion. At this moment, the evil sky pavilion disciples jumped into the fray as though they had been injected with an energy booster. Miaoyin could only watch. The energy swords that filled the skies no longer had anything to do with her. Her life was swiftly draining away, and it would end once she was emptied of primal qi. She turned her head at this moment and witnessed a scene that she would bring to her grave. Whiz. A powerful resonance of primal qi resounded across the battlefield. Zhou had summoned his avatar. A shining golden 100 tribulations insight avatar towered above everything in the air. This avatar was too tall and too huge. It was 150 feet tall. Miaoyin instinctively looked at the golden lotus under the avatar's feet. With the remnants of her life force and consciousness, she counted. 1 leaf, 2 leaves, 3 leaves, 7 leaves, 8 leaves. And 9 leaves. Realization dawned on Miao Yin. Everything was clear now. She chuckled weakly. My death isn't a mistake. Ba. Dust to dust, dirt to dirt. A blast of energy exploded, and Miao Yin dissolved in the air and was scattered into the surroundings by the wind. When the avatar appeared, it expanded, released primal chi, and it took up more space. Several hundred cultivators were felled in just an instant. Zhou kept unleashing his grand technique, flitting among his enemies. This was akin to a hyperpowered version of the Dao invisibility. Lang Luo's heart raced just by watching this. He had thought his skill was second to none when he moved at top speed, leaving afterimages in his wake before killing Fang Wenxian. However, compared to Zhou's avatar that occupied the entire foot of the mountain, he was nothing. Screams of agony rang in the air. With the disciples of the Evil Sky Pavilion joining the battle, the Evil Sky Pavilion moved forward with a crushing momentum. There was no resistance at all. Hua Wudao muttered, I think I understand now. The pavilion master must have done it on purpose. No wonder he could easily launch a 10-script 6-compatible seal. I feel better now. Lang Luo looked at the huge avatar and chimed in, perhaps, joining the Evil Sky Pavilion is the best decision I've ever made in my life. Zhu Honggong leaped out and laughed maniacally before he said, charge, my brethren, charge. I love this feeling of pushing others around by taking advantage of my position. Charge. Hua Wudao and Lang Luo were puzzled. They sighed. How did a brilliant person like the pavilion master produce such a third-rate disciple? Is he too used to being a gang leader? Meanwhile, Zhou kept an eye on the remaining time of the peak trial card as he unleashed his grand technique again. Run. Quick. The confidence and morale of the people from the 7 great sects were completely crushed at this moment. Zhou's great limit, their detailed preparations, and plans, all of them were futile before Zhou's absolute strength. The Grand Formation. Retreat to the Grand Formation. The battle shifted into the forest. Zhou's 9-leaf golden lotus was like a grass cutter as it sliced through the trees. Jia Yuan, the master of the 7 Stars Villa, fled like the wind. He activated his avatar and burned his sea of qi as he ran away in a frenzy. Boom. Jia Yuan discovered his avatar had run into something. He looked up and saw a huge avatar blocking his path. Zhou was hovering inside the 150-foot avatar. Too slow. The avatar raised a hand before slapping it down. No. Jia Yuan's avatar shattered like glass by the hand seal. His person was mashed into an unidentifiable flesh pulp on the ground. Zhou vanished with his avatar again. The forest within 1,000 meters of the battle was destroyed overnight. Nearly all of the disciples of the 7 great sects were dead by now. Niang Ling, the Hanku branch's master, burned his sea of qi and had been maintaining his expansive heavenly energy for a long time now. At this moment, he had mentally broken down. He smacked his forehead repeatedly as he cried out, "We're dead. We're dead. Why? Why?" Rather than being tortured to death under the endless fear, he would rather end his own life. Trying to kill yourself? You'll have to go through me. Whiz. The primal qi in the surroundings seemed to have frozen over. When Ning Liang looked up, he saw a huge hand seal falling on him. He did not even see Zhou before he was crushed by the hand seal. He was only a 7-leaf cultivator. It was an extremely far cry from a 9-leaf cultivator. Formation? Zhou's avatar swept through the formation. The formation veins had just been activated when they were destroyed by this huge avatar. The remaining members of the 7 great sects lost all their will to escape. Many low-ranking cultivators could not take it anymore. They were so frightened that they lay trembling on the ground. The formation was laughable. Could a low-rank formation control a 9-leaf cultivator? Zhou hovered in midair with his avatar. He observed the battlefield triumphantly. Who's next? When Zhou shattered the peak trial card, he did not intend to spare anyone. He looked around, trying to see if there was anyone he had missed. When he turned to look at the battle in the southeastern corner, he saw, amidst a tidal pool of power, a white figure was killing the cultivators from the 7 great sects in a frenzy. Blue Waves Technique? Yi Tianxin? Zhou's 150-foot avatar hovered in the air and towered over everything. He seemed calm, unsurprised by Yi Tianxin's appearance. Ever since he had read the letter Yu Shangrong had entrusted Yi Tianxin to send, he knew Yi Tianxin was still around. However, he had to admit he did not expect her to show at this moment to kill the enemies. Regardless, time was ticking. He did not have time to think about such trivial matters. Moreover, he did not need help from a mere 6-leaf cultivator. Saying that, although she had been banished, at least, she still had some sense. In any case, he was not losing out on rewards even if she was only killing low-rank cultivators. Forget it. Let her be. The disciples from the 7 great sects were easily overwhelmed by the evil sky pavilion's crushing force. Even when the 9 elders of the Yuan'er sect ignited their sea of cheese and activated their avatars, they were like ants trying to shake a tree. It had been a futile resistance. Wherever the 9-leaf golden lotus passed, everything was reduced to dust in its wake. Zhou unleashed his grand technique again as he shot in another direction. He wanted to confirm if the patriarchs from the other sects were here. He would have a headache if those who were willing to throw their lives away showed up after the peak card's effect disappeared. The 150-foot avatar flitted everywhere. When Zhou encountered slightly more powerful cultivators, he would mercilessly take their lives. Meanwhile, Yi Tianxian was resolved to fight her enemies to death. When she was fighting, she saw the huge avatar and was in awe. She suddenly recalled that time when her master captured her and brought her back to Golden Court Mountain. She remembered seeing the same sight in the evil sky pavilion. She thought that she was dreaming back then. The known limit that was achievable by cultivators was the 8-leaf stage, after all. However, this time, she was sure her eyes were not deceiving her. Master is already at the 9-leaf stage. How did he do it? Could it be that eldest senior brother is right? Master had been after the secret behind the 9-leaf stage before this? As she looked at the falling low-rank cultivators, Yi Tianxian suddenly realized her intention to help the evil sky pavilion seemed rather unnecessary. She was clearly not needed in this situation. Near the southeastern corner of the battlefield, the remaining wave of elders burned their sea of cheese at the same time. They seemed to be engulfed in flames as they scattered. With a soft grunt, Zhou leaped into the skies with his avatar. In the skies, the 9-leaf 100 Tribulations Insight avatar was like a human-shaped sun that illuminated the area within 100 miles. The cultivators within 100 miles looked up in the direction of Golden Court Mountain. They were either shocked or awed. Those who were further away could only catch a glimpse of the light. They did not know what kind of impressive phenomena was happening. Zhou summoned Unnamed and converted it into a bow. With fluid movements, he wielded the bow with his left hand and pulled on the bowstring with his right hand. Whoosh! 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 Arrows after arrows were shot out. A 9-leaf godly archer. Huayuesheng was staring intently at Zhou as he fired volleys after volleys of arrows. It was only natural since everyone wanted to witness the grandeur of a 9-leaf cultivator. Huayuesheng was a talented godly archer with a superior capacity for understanding than most, to begin with. Even without a teacher, she reached the 3-leaf stage on her own. For a genius like her, if she had a teacher to, even if it was as minimal as pointing her down a path, it would be a great help to her. Currently, she felt as though she had been enlightened. She worked hard to etch every movement into her mind. This would be the goal she worked toward in the future. The energy arrows accurately pierced the elders who were burning their sea of cheese, and they fell in succession. So this is the 9-leaf stage? Many cultivators shared this thought the moment before they took their last breath. 9 shining golden lotus leaves and the huge avatar swept through the battlefield. In his peak state, Zhou could use his primal chi as though he had an unlimited supply. He was constantly moving at top speed and unleashing his grand technique at the same time. He was still left with half of the time limit. The force of the nine-leaf stage had exceeded Lu Zhou's expectations. It was no surprise he was able to crush the 7 great sects in such a short time. However, he could not shake the feeling that there were rats hiding in the shadows. Is the nine-leaf stage too flashy? Lu Zhou waved his arm and recalled the nine-leaf avatar. He descended slowly like a falling feather. He could still feel the surging power in his body. Every time it was spent, it would be instantly replenished. Meanwhile, in a valley 100 miles away from the westernmost part of Golden Court Mountain, Feng Qinghe, the master of Shinsong branch, flew at top speed as he pressed a hand on his abdomen. Among all those from the 7 great sects, it seemed like he was the only one who survived. In any case, he did not have the luxury to check if there were other survivors. Fear gripped his heart and threatened to crush it whenever he thought about the nine-leaf avatar. Why is he a nine-leaf cultivator? Why is he a fucking nine-leaf cultivator? If he did not seize the opportunity created by the chaos when he forcibly burned his sea of chi forcibly and escape when old villain Ji was sweeping through the battlefield, he would have been a corpse by now. He looked at the valley. Another mile to go. He wiped the blood off the edge of his lips and dashed forward. One was bound for good fortune after surviving a great disaster. At this moment, someone called out from behind, "Sect Master." "Wait up." Feng Qinghe was startled with a jump. He snapped around and immediately stumbled to the ground. His eyes were wide open when he stared at the disciple who was rushing toward him. Impossible. There's someone who's as intelligent as me from the Zhengsong branch and managed to survive? Feng Qinghe gulped as he watched the disciple who was dressed in Shinsong branch's uniform running toward him. He relaxed and asked, "How did you manage to escape?" I played dead." Played dead? That means you know the inner breath technique and that you are, at least, in the divine court realm. Not bad. Feng Qinghe praised. He did not have the energy now to gauge the disciple's cultivation base. Sect Master. Where are we going?" "That valley up ahead. I've prepared something there." Feng Qinghe shook his head and sighed. "Alas, it won't be of any use. Faced with a nine-leaf cultivator, what good are all our plans?" "Huh? Does this mean the Shinsong branch is done for?" "Watch your words." Feng Qinghe frowned. "I am sorry. After this incident, you'll be the pillar of Shinsong branch. You'll be the Grand Elder." "Come, help me up," Feng Qinghe said. "I'd like to be the sect master," the disciple replied. Feng Qinghe frowned slightly. There were many who would take advantage of another person's misfortune. After holding this position for so long, he was prepared and not surprised by this kind of situation. He studied the disciple before him. He could not remember who this person was. Although Zhengsong branch could not compare to the Yun, Tian, and Luo sects, it was still a branch with thousands of members. It was impossible for him to remember each and every one of them. In any case, having lost so many of his members, he could not reprimand this disciple like he usually would. If you want to become the sect master, you'll need to earn the right and have the strength to match it. Feng Qinghe examined the disciple. "Help me up now." "All right." The disciple helped him up. "What's your name?" "I'm Ri." "Ri?" He scratched his head. "I didn't think of a proper name." "What does he mean?" Feng Qinghe was confused. There was a sudden cold flash of light. Zing. The moment Feng Qinghe was pulled up, the separation hook, wrapped in energy, slashed across his chest. Boom. Feng Qinghe was sent flying by this sneak attack. He flipped in the air. When he landed on his feet, he spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered backward. His eyes widened in shock as he stared at the separation hook, clearly seeing through its grade. He coughed violently before he asked in a deep voice, "You're not a Shinsong branch disciple. Who are you?"